Welcome to our special series brought to you by Scotiabank Women Initiative, which is helping women grow their business, advance their careers, and invest in their futures so they can succeed on their own terms. Today, we spotlight Danielle Martin. She's Senior Wealth Advisor and Portfolio Manager at ScotiaMcLeod, and we focused on the unique challenge of helping business owners, like dentists, manage their money. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or professional advice. The views expressed by the host and the guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organization or company. The host and guests may maintain positions in any securities discussed on the podcast. Always consult a qualified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. Danielle Martin, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
I'm very interested to learn about the area of practice you have at Scotia. You've been at Scotia for a very long time, but as a wealth manager, you're focused on a particular type of person, let's say, or a type of people. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the kind of people that you help manage money for and help think about wealth for?
That's a great question. And I think what you'll find is that when I talk about my business, I've seen it evolve over time. So we used to be stockbrokers, 30 years ago. And then it was all about product. And it was about who are you going to provide these products to? And then it became products and services. So now it's much more holistic, dealing with a lot of families, a lot of professionals and their families, business owners. So people who have often more complex needs. And what we do a really great job at is working with the client's accountant and their lawyer to integrate all the wealth management pillars, if you like.
I know. So like this show is like all stock picking all the time.
Yeah.
But truly, that's the part that I have more fun with. But truly, that's only a slice, especially for an individual. Like if they own their own business, which I know a lot of your clients do, that's just like one part of the overall thing that you need to provide for them. Do you find that people have an understanding of that, like when they're coming to you, or do you have to kind of do a lot of work to educate? These are all the things you need to consider when you're coming up with the total wealth plan.
Yeah, there's so much to consider. And it used to be, what's my rate of return? How have I done? How am I doing in context to the market? Am I outperforming the index, or is my asset mix right? And now so much of it has to do with planning and forecasting and looking at portfolios to integrate with tax strategies, to integrate with insurance strategies, family legacy, like all of it works hand in hand. And I find that the clients that are most satisfied are those who understand why they've made each decision and how it works together.
Am I right that a lot of your clients are business owners?
Yeah. So a lot of my focus over the 3 decades has been to work with dentists and a lot of medical professionals also and their families. And what's unique about them is they often own a practice. So they actually have equity, and a lot of time is spent building the practice and building their net worth through their personal business.
I think this is really important because, we talk about, I say investing is for everybody. But business owners, even dentists, are sort of, they're a different breed. And I just say that because my mom was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And like growing up watching her, she was investing in herself. The money that came in the door went back into the business, right? And so that was kind of the bet, thinking about, well, I'm growing a business. I don't have time to think about like the S&P 500 and the TSX and that sort of, way of framing my wealth. My wealth will come from my business, and that's it.
And investing in myself, like taking the time to believe in myself.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you deal with that? I imagine it's your job to educate people and say,
yeah,
you actually have to think about some other things.
And what I've often, like the conversation I've often had when I'm meeting a dentist at first or a business owner is to say, I kind of have a crystal ball, not about the markets, but I have a crystal ball when it relates to some of the pitfalls and some of the headwinds that you could face as an entrepreneur. And it's my job to help you avoid them and to make steadfast like a strategy that you can stay on path. Because when you're not in the operatory, in someone's mouth, you're not making money at your job. So my job is to make it such that you have the peace of mind, you have the ease, knowing that your investments and your insurance and your tax planning and your long-term legacy planning with charitable giving, things like that, are all holistic and taken care of.
I love that you said we have a crystal ball with some of the pitfalls. Take me through some of them. What are the most common things that a business owner might not be considering because they are so heads down in building the business?
I think being distracted from the headlines in the newspaper, getting scared, the fear, the greed, like all those things that are natural to investors or to people who make decisions about wealth management, but it's to be able to control the emotion so that they're not distracted from what they do best, which is, in that example, dentistry. So I've seen clients get distracted from what sounds too good to be true. So some, private equity placements or, flow through shares, things like that in the past that don't necessarily even exist anymore. But opportunities that would grab attention, but didn't necessarily always work out to benefit the investor. So when I'm talking to a client and I'm trying to keep things very clear and simple and predictable as they can be, given the circumstances of the market, I think clients are much, much happier in the long run when they feel that there's a pattern that they could follow.
It's obviously easier to start when you start early, right? Start talking about with your kids and do all of that. We advocate for that on this show. But I know a lot of dentists. I know you do. I know a lot of people in the medical profession. I know people have started businesses. They're starting from, maybe they have more debt than the average person, or maybe they've plunged all their savings into their business. And so they just don't have the excess. Like, take me through the life cycle of like these business people. Is it like, do they come to you before they start a business to think about that plan? Or is it, maybe after year 5 or 6, they have some success. Now it's time, you've made the risk, it's paid off. Let's be conservative now with your finances.
Let's make good decisions now that you're established. Well, I have always had a rule of thumb with my business that if they are a dentist, I will help them. So I sort of don't measure what life cycle they're at, but I could tell you that for wealth management, a dentist is always typically a very good client and is someone that's excellent to work for because they understand business and they appreciate the advice. So typically very delegative clients. And when they're young or when they're just starting out, often they're associates in a practice. So they still need that tax deduction from the RSP contribution. And maybe it starts with that, but paying debt over time, building an insurance portfolio, and making sure that they're investing for the long term because they don't have a pension. So unless their partner, their spouse has a pension, often it's the case that they need to save money even more than people who have a pension at work.
And this is a women initiative. So let's talk about the other milestone for a lot of women that especially physicians and dentists don't have is maternity leave.
Yeah.
Like that's a financial event. We can call
That's a huge financial event. And I love talking about that because I had 3 kids in 4 years. So that's kind of my claim to fame. And it was mid business. Like I had kids who were 22, 24, and 25 now. And I worked. I didn't take maternity leaves like my friends did who worked in a 9-to-5 job. But guess what? I dropped my kids off every day at school, picked them up, went on every outing. So in terms of dentistry, I think it's very similar. It's a great career for women as well, because I think it's something that you can carve out your schedule and you can get support where you need it to be able to fulfill your family balance. And I did. I look at families now with 3 little kids and I'm thinking, how did I do that? It actually happened this morning. I was driving and I saw a mom with 3 kids and I thought, oh my God. And my youngest daughter said, Mommy, look at that lady. She has 3 little kids. And I went, yeah, so that was us, So I'm all about work-life balance. I'm all about taking the time with your family first and doing the hard work when you're at the office, and it will all work out.
Well, you're looking, I also had 3 kids in 4 years. And I think part of starting my own business was I just needed flexibility. I didn't need to work less, but I needed flexibility so I could, to your point, be there at the pickups and the drop-offs and do all that stuff.
It's the best example to show your kids, that having a work-life balance and being able to participate is so important for their careers and their future.
I feel like I can tell why your clients love you already because you've got the soft skills nailed, right? You understand it's like part of somebody's whole entire life journey and just like feeling safe in that. Is that like, how important is that for managers to understand, especially, not to stereotype, but this is an industry of like dollars and spreadsheets and that sort of thing.
Yeah. When I went through the training program 33 years ago, I was the only woman that finished the program. So I think there were 3 of us when we started the program, and it used to be 1.5 years or 2 years. And by the time we finished, I was the only one who stayed for the whole duration. And looking back now, like looking at that now and thinking, how did I do that? Like, how did I have the personal strength? But I just did not have a choice. It was a job and I stuck to it and I just did it. And the success now that I see with the training programs, and there's 50% women, I think this is such a fantastic industry for women. And it's so important to be able to talk to people and to listen to what way. I always say to a client, how can I help you most? I can help you in 1,000 ways, but how can I help you most? And that just opens up like a stream of conversations. And it's sometimes not what I expect, So it's not just about stocks and bonds. It's about understanding people's fears, people's dreams, and how they perceive what's important to them changes also. If we go through like a COVID situation and all of a sudden you're, reevaluating your whole outlook on life and on money and on friendships and on hobbies, like everything. So in my job, all I do is talk to people all day long about what makes them happy.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Anytime.
That's Danielle Martin, Senior Wealth Advisor and Portfolio Manager at ScotiaMcLeod. And this concludes our series. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you, as always, on the next episode.